the landscape is evolving, which can also be equated to new opportunities. So converting to a go and delivery strategy. We're going to take some time today and talk about Jim, what slide are you on, bud?
Setting it up. I'm on slide 6 or slide 7. I'm sorry. I've got this pop up in my screen. It's really giving me a hard time.
No worries, bud. Obviously, to set up to go and delivery options, you're going to want to verify that your POS is capable of to go or delivery. Most POS systems have some functionality around that. A lot don't, and then in which case you're going to have to determine how you can track and post to-go deliveries in your restaurant, both from a ticket perspective and from a data collection perspective. You're going to want to evaluate your offerings and make sure that what you build is transportable and it's meeting current customer needs. This is a good time to think about reorganizing and streamlining some production methods and some production line functions. We're going to talk a little bit about creating a queue and preparing upfront for customers that are going to want limited contact. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about some alternate staff roles with social media marketing and order takers and acting as drivers.
Okay, Mike, I've got this. So as we talk about, you see on the screen there, two really important words, value and loyalty. This is not the time to do anything crazy with your prices down or up. We did see a few instances of some restaurants back east that unwisely thought that they had a supply and demand situation and they started price gouging and they just got destroyed on social media. So that's not a good idea, nor is it a good idea to undercut yourself too badly. You will have loyalty with your takeout programs right now, and more significant, just as significantly, you'll have that same loyalty from those same customers when this pandemic is over, and they're looking to go back into a dining room. So let's have that nice balance there. We talk about sanitation a lot. It's a big deal in our industry, and it's never been more important than ever. And this is going to continue for a long, long time. I saw a fascinating statistic today. 2,000 people surveyed. In the last 48 hours, 57% of them thought about using a restaurant for takeout, but only 30% of them did. The ones that didn't said they felt nervous or at risk about going to a restaurant. And so we really need to be very, very forward and visible with our sanitation. And we're going to show some images of that here in just a little bit. Social distancing, obviously very important, and making it easy for the guests to do that. Tamper-proof packaging makes me feel better about it. Offering to sanitize my card if I've had to touch it, sanitizing the touchscreen just before you touch it. All these things are making a difference when consumers are making a decision on where to get their takeout from. Incentivizing is now a good time. If you're not used to doing incentives or coupons, this may be a short-term time to do this. Drop a simple homemade coupon into the takeout bag. Thanks for joining us today, 10% off tomorrow. Or call us 24 hours in advance with an order of $100 or more, and we'll knock you off 15%. Or we'll give you a $20 gift card, which you can come in and redeem when the pandemic is behind us. Start thinking out of the box on those things to get repeat business now, and then of course when everything's back to normal. Looks like a lot of kids won't be going back to school after spring break. We may have kids at home until August, September. So there's an opportunity there. There's restaurants that don't have, some don't have kid menus. Maybe you should develop one now. There's chefs that refuse to have something like a chicken tender because it doesn't match with their menu and their brand. Well, they travel really well and kids really like them, and parents like to have happy kids right now when everybody's inside. So maybe that's an opportunity for us to add something in along those lines. There again is this idea of bounce back, some kind of bounce back offer in every takeout bag that goes in. Mike just touched on using your existing staff in new and different ways to try to keep them employed. If you choose to use them as drivers, delivery drivers, which is happening a lot, make sure you get a hold of your insurance company. It's a different type of insurance that you need to have if you're going to have employees driving their own cars, delivering food for you. So make sure you call your insurance company on that. It's harder and harder to use the third party platforms right now, they take such a huge cut off the top, 20 to 30%, and every penny matters right now. So maybe it's time to develop your own in-house delivery program. So here's some of those images we talked about in the upper left-hand corner. You see there at Social Eats, that's the entrance to the restaurant. So they've got some nice broad tables, which delineates an area between the customer area and the employee area, so no one's going back in there. If you look closely on the floor in front of those tables in that picture, there's in tape, written in tape, 6 feet. And so they're just reminding people every 6 feet, stand here, don't congregate, don't bunch up. We need to make sure that we make our restaurants easy to use. You may have a lot of regulars at your restaurant, but they're not used to this restaurant that you've become temporarily. So you can see in the lower left, they put some sawhorses out there with signage on where to park, where to go. We've seen restaurants blocking off every other parking spot to ensure social distancing. Get creative and think about things like that to make it easy for the consumer to use your restaurant. In the photo in the lower right with the delivery person, there's those blue cones leading you right up to where you're supposed to be if you're not used to using curbside service, and then they're watching for you from the restaurant and coming out. Oftentimes we're seeing come out with gloves on, and you never have to get out of your car. And oftentimes they're now saying you don't need to sign the credit card voucher, we'll just let you go with that. Upper right hand corner is if you've got a situation where people have to queue up on a sidewalk, and we're putting down instructional tape and tape every 6 feet to ensure that social distancing there. And I'm going to hand it back over to Mike, and he's going to talk about menus to go and delivery.
Optimizing your menu to go and delivery, it's really key. One of the biggest things you need to do is make sure that your food and your offerings are built to travel well. You can test this. Prepare your stuff, put it in the container you're going to ship it in, styrofoam, cardboard, and let it sit for 20-22 minutes. That's what it takes to get something to somebody's house, and then open it and see how the food is carried. And then that will obviously guide you through menu adjustments. You also need to scale your menu for what works when you're busy and slow. Right now, dinner is the same set of data that Jim spoke about earlier also indicated that dinner is now become the largest day part. When forever carryout's been the largest day part for lunch. And so are you scaling your menu and your offerings so that it works and you can get delivery quality and delivery time with the times you're busy, which are different than they were before. So obviously you want to be looking at that. And then there's just going to be this opportunity of forced changes. As the commodities markets and the product markets get tighter, and as the news talks about different things, what you might want to sell and or are able to sell could change. So be flexible, be thinking about changes that may come to you because of things outside of your control. Recipes should be able to be cross-utilized. Obviously, at this time, you're going to want to minimize the amount of products you have on your line so you can not have to order as much and not have to possibly waste as much. It's a good time for you to make some of the changes you've always wanted to make. If you've had items you wanted to get rid of and kind of felt like I'm going to make that customer mad, now's an opportunity to say, hey, let's go ahead and make some changes for the safety of our customers and the betterment of quality, and you can judge and see how those work. It's also a good time to determine if you can use less labor in production because you're cross-utilizing things. You're going to want to simplify and make sure your menu descriptions are easy for your customers to understand. But they also are representing what your customers want and need from you right now. I think and we'll talk in a minute about menus for families and menus for larger groups. But you still want to provide a favorable guest experience. And so as you're doing to go and you're doing delivery, think about the things that would make you comfortable in that scenario, especially in this environment. Just from, Jim mentioned in one of the pictures before, does the delivery person have gloves on? Or do we have the ground properly marked? And those things, take that same sort of idea back into your menu. Talk about, the quality of your products, the safety of your products, and give good warming and reheating instructions to your clients, your customers, as they leave, so they feel comfortable that they're treating the food in a proper and safe manner. Last but not least, please, this is a time to talk about change and the size and scope of change as products become a little bit more volatile. It's important to give your customers a real sense of value, and that the work you're putting in to stay contemporary and stay on top of this is valuable to them. Here's some examples. Yeah, thanks, Bud. Creating craveability, getting people to have see different value in what you provide. Meal preps, family meal night, a plate of a tray of enchiladas, a salad, and some chips, a meatloaf and a big salad and a loaf of bread, spaghetti, meals for families that might want to try a flavor or a taste that they don't know how to cook, that they could take home in a convenient package and for a nice fair price. Family style meal planning for the week. We have some restaurant customers that are selling all 5 weeknights worth of dinner, and you go in on Sunday afternoon and pick it up, and some is frozen and some is refrigerated. And so look and see if you have the capability to provide meal planning for the entire week for the family. And then packaged meals, single container, hot and cold menu items. Make sure that obviously you can sell hot foods hot and cold food cold, and you're building those offerings to be safe. And then off the menu, there's customers may call and say, "Can you do this?" And this is a time for you to try it. This is a time, if the answer is yes, it's because you have the products and the capability. It's time for you to try some things that the customers might actually want to see you be able to offer, and it might be a good time to test that. You can see here some examples of some of the meal prepping and the scope and scale of that. You can see we have down in the lower right-hand corner, that's one of the organizations we work with, prepping for a local hospital to feed the workers because their kitchen was so busy and is so tied up right now. And then on the far left lower corner, you can see something prepping for several days worth of meals for a family, or right down to just calling in for a couple of cheeseburgers and some beer. Here in Arizona, and I think I believe in Colorado also, we're allowed to deliver and sell alcohol. So you can see up in the upper left-hand corner, that's a customer called Sombreros, and you drive through and you get your meal kit and a quart of ready-made margaritas.
And that is true, Mike. We're allowed to do that in Colorado. It's made a real difference to us in terms of that top line sale. Some of the breakfast lunch places have come up with some really cool kits of Bloody Marys to go for a party of 4 with Bloody Mary mix and vodka and celery and salt and all those things, or mimosas to go with 3 different juices. I know that's not currently legal in New Mexico, but the Restaurant Association, I believe, is trying to get the governor's ear on that because it's making a big difference for restaurant operators. So if you're on this call and you've got a restaurant in New Mexico, which obviously you do, maybe reach out to the Restaurant Association and let your voice be heard. It's a very important top line sale.
Yeah, just to plug, we do have a campaign going out, and you all should see that. It is a campaign to talk to the governor and legislators about allowing us to have this takeout delivery of liquor. So liquor and beer and wine, obviously. So please, when you get that, don't just have yourself send that campaign in, but send it to your employees. They're going to care about you getting back on your feet too. So make sure that we get some good messaging to the governor. And we've already prepared the message for you. All you have to do is hit the buttons. You guys have done this before. You know how to do it, and let's make a difference on this. So plug, sorry.
No, it's an important plug. So you bet. Becoming retail ready, what we're seeing around the country is more and more restaurant operators selling things in bulk. We go to our local grocery stores all over the place, and the shelves are pretty bare. Produce and meats are tough to come by. Don't even bother with the toilet paper aisle, right? So it's going to take a while for the supply chain to catch up with grocery stores. In the meantime, we're seeing more and more restaurants become mini grocery stores and making these kinds of offerings along with to-go foods, meat in bulk, produce, dairy, things of that nature, so that folks can have that convenience. You can get the sale, and from a safety and security standpoint, it makes your to-go customers feel better about not having to go in the grocery store. Some folks are really nervous about the social distancing for obvious reasons. A produce box with a little bit of lettuce and celery and radishes and cucumbers, things of that nature, ensure that families have fresh produce, and you're getting that top line sale. You're engaging even more with your customer. They're going to remember you during this coronavirus time and afterwards as well. Restaurant operators that are doing this and doing it well are doing an add-on sale at the point of sale on the phone. They take the order, and then they've trained their employees. Say, do you need a dozen eggs? Do you need a couple rolls of toilet paper? We have that available at a reasonable price. Our operators are telling us that they like prepackaged stuff that has a use-by date because it protects them a little bit more. We're seeing some success with cryovac steaks and things of that nature. But this is a time where we always have to, restaurant operators in New Mexico, and I know it because I ran restaurants down there for decades, very tenacious people. So we need to not only be tenacious, but we need to be very creative on how to drive these top line sales so that we're healthy on the other side of this thing. I'm going to hand it off to Mike, and he's going to talk a little bit about marketing.
Yeah, this is a really fluid situation. Obviously, since we've entered into this phase, it's been less than 2 weeks that's had the impact it's had on the industry. So things are constantly evolving. So it's really important that you're paying attention to the market, and also making sure that people understand what they see from you. What does the customer see? What are the optics on your website and on your web offering? What are the optics in your building from the perspective of food safety and being able to deliver for their to-go and carry-outs? And then how are you getting your message out to the neighborhood through perhaps banners and sandwich boards and the flags, and just to drive some energy to the location. Driving by and just seeing the door propped open isn't really a call for business. We've got to let the people know that we're open and we're excited and we're moving forward. Gloves are a marketing tool anymore. They're the sneeze guards of this whole thing. I went through Starbucks, and she's holding the bottom of my cup, but she's wearing a glove. And it's funny because that was not an expectation of me or probably most of Starbucks customers 3 weeks ago, and now it's an expectation. And then what's your focused offer? What are you doing to tell the community about the tastes you're offering, the value you might be giving them by providing meals and providing food for them, the conveniences that you're offering, and also what are you doing as part of your community? A lot of restaurateurs right now are tying back to the community. We're down to about a 1 to 3 mile radius because people are not going far from their homes. People used to drive a long way, and there still are destination restaurants as far as taste, but there's not destination restaurants because of location, because you're not going to go in. So what are you doing to embrace the community that's within a short drivable distance of you? And then this is a great time to listen to the local market. Watch what's happening around you and look for successes. And then be responsive. If all of a sudden, and that's how the grocery thing sort of happened here in Phoenix with some of our customers. Couple customers started selling what they called dry grocery bags and refrigerated grocery bags, and it was incredibly popular. And the next thing you know, the little grocery sort of to-go markets were popping up all over town. So here's some examples of some marketing emphases. You've got the personal to the customers. like Flying Stars letter there up in the middle. You've got some value-driven ones like Wing Shack, and K. O'Donnell's is working with the community. You also see there's some staff relief efforts out there, and you'll see a lot of places are adding on $1, or they have a GoFundMe account to try to create funds for the hundreds and thousands of workers that are out of business. And then there's this driving benefit back to the customer, buying gift cards and getting a bonus, and or buy one get ones. We also saw some groups that, like Jim mentioned, mom's home all day, come buy lunch and we'll give you free kids meals for your kids, both community and value. And some examples on incentives. 50% off, as you can see, because we can sell alcohol in several of the states we service. But you can do breakfast meals, lunch meals, dinner meals for the week. You can make your campaigns, very, very family oriented as opposed to catering oriented. And you'll see that almost all of these stores, at least the two of them, have modified hours. Modified hours have become a very, very commonplace thing now. Most stores are opening later and closing sooner to keep the labor piece to a 1 day, a 1 shift per day scenario. Resources we have at Shamrock Foods. If you go to shamrockfoodservice.com, we have our coronavirus COVID-19 page. Everything that we've presented here, plus much, much more, is available. There's blogs for you to participate in, and places to ask questions and get answers. And we're keeping up with all the latest CDC and government communications. I think that's it, Jim.
Yeah, that's it for us, Carol. There's just a couple things. We had some technical problems at the top, so I'm sorry about that. We had a little trouble reading the screen, so we might have started off a little clunky. But the takeaway that we're talking about is now is the time to be very creative. Now is the time to go get outside of your box and think about ways you can drive your top line sales. It's obviously very, very challenging out there. And it's horrible to see what the planet's going through, but from an economic standpoint, these things do happen from time to time, and we tend to come out of them stronger and leaner and better as businesses. So I would just, keep the faith. This has to end, and just keep fighting your way through it. You'll come out on the other side, and then we'll all enjoy a rebound. And we'll just hope that some really, really smart people all over our planet come up with a way to get rid of this coronavirus. So keep the faith.
Yes, I agree. And we've actually heard that there's going to be a lot of pent up demand for people going out to restaurants. For those that are picking up now, they love going out to restaurants, and there's going to be demand for that. For those of you, I apologize for our technical difficulties. I did not realize that because we're using the same Zoom code on a daily basis, that people are finding it and then hacking it. So we will be sending out a different code every day. I don't know how we're going to do this, and I don't know if it means that you have to register. We were trying to make this as easy as possible. And I apologize because we may not be able to make it that easy. We'll also figure out the Facebook Live. I think our internet is overloaded here, and that may be why that didn't work today. But appreciate all of you who are on. You can chat now if you don't mind. I will be the one getting the chat, so I will ask the questions. I believe, as long as you have the chat available. So a question here, is it better to stay open at a loss versus closing?
Mike, do you want to take that?
It's, we're working on some math around that. And the question that question's been asked a lot. And the easy answer is it depends on how long this lasts, correct? If as this starts to extend itself, the trick is to try to operate less hours, and products that help you stay as close to a break even as possible. I'm not going to get into this today. I'm sure the Restaurant Association will, but the SBA after Wednesday's passing of the CARES Act released its requirements for SBA loans that will be available, and they will help you cover the costs of. Actually, they will cover the costs of mortgage interest, rent, employee costs, and several other items. So once that gets defined over the next couple of days, staying open might make sense.
So Mike, just to plug also tomorrow, again, that's our 3 o'clock talk. And again, we will send out a different connection for our Zoom meeting, but that's happening at 3 o'clock tomorrow. We'll be able to tell you not only what happened with the federal relief, the first federal relief bill, but we'll tell you what's going to happen in this upcoming federal relief bill. I was on a call with the National Restaurant Association this afternoon, and there's going to be a lot of things you need to think about. So we had a talk yesterday from the SBA, and if you go for one of those loans and you get it, you won't necessarily qualify for some of this other relief, but it may be better for you to go for the loan. So I'm saying you need to be on the call tomorrow at 3, because we're going to talk about this specifically about our small businesses here in New Mexico. And then there's yet another call at 1 o'clock with the National Restaurant Association. And I would say that all of us, I mean, you just need to be educated, and you need to make sure that your accountant and your lawyer is educated so that you're doing the right thing, because there's going to be a myriad of things you could do, and it's going to be hard to tell which ones of those you should do. And I hate to be so cryptic about it, but after being on that call today, there's a lot of things you need to be asking right now, whether you should get that SBA loan or whether you should wait for some of this other money to come. That's all I'm going to say about that. And as far as staying open at a loss versus closing, I think everybody's making that decision individually, certainly, but the momentum is behind staying open. If you can make takeout work for you, if you can make these things work for you, the momentum is there, so you don't have to get up and going again. And some of the federal relief will allow you to actually rehire your employees and keep them around on a standby basis. So, and that may be good for cleaning, that may be good for just some other things that you want to do. But the federal government really wants us hiring our employees back ASAP. So stand by for that tomorrow at 1, tomorrow at 3. I know it's a lot of information, and I know you don't think you have time for it, but you got to make time for this, because I need you guys to get back up and going as soon as this is over. And thank you, Mike and Jim, for this presentation, because this is kind of letting us know what we can do now. How can we survive now and maybe thrive a little bit? So thank you for that presentation. I've got another couple of questions here. It says maybe we can email the Zoom link to people directly. And the problem with that is I'm worried you won't get it too. She says, I'm worried I won't get it. So Jim, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen now. And I think I can just do that by taking it back from you. So I just want to go through a couple of things with you. This is our alert for today. If you are not getting these alerts, you probably won't get our number for tomorrow. If you are getting these alerts, you will get that number. And so Dan Gilpatrick asked would you still recommend operators apply for the SBA loan so they're at least approved? I say yes, go through the process, because if in the end you don't sign the papers and you don't go through with it, you might find some other relief that's better than that loan, but at least you have that loan in front of you and you don't have to take it if the relief is better. So I say go through the process. So if you're not getting the email alert, I'm going to show you how to go to our website and get signed up for that. We are also sending this out to our members through our membership database. I don't know if it's on a daily basis, but if you go to our website, the news you need, subscribe here. That's all you need to do is subscribe. It gets you on our mailing list automatically. So, and if you think maybe somehow you've got us in your spam filter, go to that same place and our, let's see, nmrestaurants.org, you need to make sure it's whitelisted. So nmrestaurants.org, make sure that is whitelisted. So I just want to go through a couple of things here. The public health department put out some restrictions, and it's no more restrictive than it was before, but it just tells you what you need to know. And this goes into about 3 or 4 more bullet points here. This is where you need to tell the governor to let restaurants deliver alcohol. Send the message from here. You'll probably, if you've ever done an alert with us on a campaign, you'll probably get this same message by text as well. If you didn't know, NRA is giving free food handler courses, and they have delivery and takeout training for free. So if you think your employees need that, I like the idea that the Starbucks person came out with a glove on and was holding the cup from the bottom. That's really important to me. All of us in the industry know that you're not supposed to grab a cup by the top. But I was at a takeout the other day, and not only did they not do that, they handed me my receipt that I needed to sign. So now I've got my hand on the same thing that they've got their hand on. And I don't think they're sanitizing it when they're giving it to the next person. So we really got to think about these things that make it look like we are overdoing the sanitation processes. I think it's super important right now. Just overdo it. Excuse me. I don't know if you know it, but we did get yesterday information from the Workforce Development Office that they are not going to be charging employers for the benefits paid out to claimants during this time. And I really thanked Bill McCamley for this. I've been pressing for it since this all started, because I've seen that fund, and I've seen how it can tear your business apart if they're charging your business for all of these layoffs. So I told them I appreciate that. They're also hoping that they're going to get funding from the federal government so that they don't have to start at zero at some point. Take the survey to let us know you're still open. And we, of course, have a coronavirus resource page, which is so funny because I think everybody has one right now. But what's really important about ours is it's for restaurants in New Mexico. So if you are a restaurant in New Mexico, this is one you really should follow. It's got the information that you need. And then, of course, we have these daily industry calls. This will not be the call-in number. We will start something new tomorrow. I wanted to show you all this. This is something that Texas is doing. Texas is allowing, and this is something we're already doing, but they're actually having their governor talk about restaurants as a supply chain. So they're having restaurants become mini grocery stores. And we have sent this to our governor, and we are asking if she thinks that this is something we could put together. And don't hold your breath, but she's been pretty responsive to us up until now. So keep that in mind. And I just thought that was something innovative to include in this webinar as well. And what else? So the bad news is we've got these statistics, and this is, as of yesterday, the New Mexico restaurant industry lost an estimated $123 million in sales in the first 22 days of March, 15,000 jobs. We're probably going to put all of this information out in a press release. And I just have to say, you know, it's the bad news. And hopefully there's good news coming. Honestly, I think we're going to be seeing much more than this. So this was from the National Restaurant Association survey. Our survey, we haven't compiled yet. But that survey was more of what you're doing so that we could get it to some of these, in particular, We're Open New Mexico. We're Open NM. Candela, make sure I'm right about that. It's a website that somebody did on our behalf, and we are pushing that website. There's a lot of websites out there that are trying to help restaurants and trying to make sure that you know who and make sure the general public knows who's open for takeout. Any other questions? Is there a separate survey that we print out and distribute to restaurants in our area? I thought I heard you mention on the, no, it's not a printout. It's really, if you can just forward it on. Let me see if I've got it on here. Yeah, so this is the survey that if you'll just click on this, takes you to a Survey Monkey. You can copy this and just forward it on to all of those restaurants in your area. And we really appreciate that because it's going to be very helpful. Oh, and Candela says, what's opennm.com is the website. I'll see if I can click into it from here. So this is the website. They can find a business here. You can submit your business here. So we also took all of our survey information and submitted all of that information into this website. So they've got all of our information as well. So I just wanted you to see that. We're working with Simply Design and the New Mexico Hospitality Association on that information. You guys don't hesitate to email me if you have questions, and our staff is answering the phone. So if you call, we will answer the phone for you. Any more chat questions? Seeing none. Jim and Mike, thank you so much for being here. Everyone else, I really appreciate your time. I know you're doing everything you can to keep your restaurants open, and I appreciate that, and we'll keep you going. Thank you all.